Gilba, J Gilba 11. Taking a look at the 11-game slate here on FanDuel to kick off Sunday right before the All-Star break. And jumping right into things, you got Detroit and Blue Jays. Anibal Sanchez versus R.A. Dickey. Obviously, the Blue Jays are one of the more targetable offenses today. Just looking at what Anibal Sanchez has done this year, 365 WOBA to lefties allowed, 1.42 home runs per nine. Righties with 384 WOBA, 2.21 home runs per nine. Obviously, you're looking at the Blue Jays. I mean, projected runs right around 6 right now, and they're going to come in as one of the higher owned teams. Obviously, there's a couple of great teams and spots today. But, I mean, you're looking at the usual suspects here, Donaldson, Encarnacion. I love Encarnacion at first base. Third base is completely stacked. Obviously, Donaldson's in play, but also you do have Machado and Bryant there around similar price tags who are equally in good spots. I like Ezekiel Carrera 3.6. He's definitely intriguing. Tulowitzki at 3.2 isn't a bad option as well. So really 1 through 5, you can definitely look at them. Probably not going to see Russell Martin into the lineup. Probably going to see a day off for him. As far as the Tiger side goes, obviously they're just kind of a GPP threat for me. I don't usually like attacking knuckleballers in cash games, but I do like some of these prices, and some guys have had some success, like Maben and Kinsler off Dickey in the past, so I don't mind it there. As for Cabrera, Martinez, Castellanos, they've been up and down against Dickey as far as BVP numbers go in the knuckleball, so definitely just GPP shots, if anything, and you're trying to kind of get hopeful there. Yankees and Indians, next one here, Carlos Carrasco versus Masahiro Tanaka. Love Carrasco today. I think he's a solid cash game arm going up against this Yankees offense that doesn't fare well against right-handed pitching. They rank in the bottom 10 in WOBA. They don't strike out a ton, but you got to look. I mean, Carrasco is a small favorite, and you got to look at the slate for pitching. There isn't really a ton of great options and great spots. So I do think you can kind of lean on Carrasco here at 10-3, not a bad price tag for him. And with that being said, I'm not really looking to use the Yankees at all here. And look at the Indians as well. Facing Masahiro Tanaka, not a big fan of some of these guys. I don't mind the price tags and GPPs if you want to, bank on them, staying hot, like a Kipnis at 2.9, certainly intriguing. Tanaka, I mean, has been pretty solid against lefties, and that's where you're looking at here. Holding him to just a 251 WOBA this season. So obviously not a lot of these guys are in play. Righties, on the other hand, still pretty weak. 279 doesn't allow a ton of home runs, especially in Progressive and outside of Yankee Stadium. So for me, not a big fan of the Cleveland offense. I think you can kind of stay away from this game as far as hitters go. Next one, here you get the Reds and the Marlins, and I definitely don't mind the Marlins bats here at some of these prices. Really like Marcell Ozuna at 3.5, pretty fair price. And you also have JT Realmuto and Martin Prado, both below 2,800. Both great value plays on today's slate, and obviously you have Stanton, the big bopper, at 3,800. And for him, I mean, he's not really priced that high for facing a rookie lefty, so you got to like him in that spot. Cody Reed, allowing a 467 WOBA to righties this year, 43% hard ball rate, obviously over just a couple start sample size, but really hard to not like him here. As far as the Reds go, definitely a GPP team. Guys like Billy Hamilton, Votto, and Bruce I'm looking at, just because you look at Kohler this year, 363 WOBA allowed to lefties. A low ground ball rate. I would say it's not the best park to hit in, but I definitely don't mind Votto, Bruce in GPPs. Same thing with Hamilton with his stolen base upside. And you also got to like Duvall at that price, 3.1 for a guy who has some serious power against right-handed pitching. And Kohler's a beatable bat. So definitely not looking at the pitchers. I think this game could be one for offense, more so on the Marlins side. Nationals and Mets, Steven Matz versus Gio Gonzalez, two lefties on the hill, and both are in play for GPPs. And I do think more so Gio, because I'm kind of looking at this lineup. I mean, without Cespedes, it does take a lot of sting out of it. There are a lot of lefties. You got Curtis Granderson. A lot of guys turn over to the left side or to the right side, guys like Walker and Cabrera. Gonzalez, I mean, intriguing GPP option, obviously not a cash game play. Definitely kind of a high risk, high reward top option on today's slate. Pitching really isn't that strong. Look at the national side of things. I mean, we look at Matz. I mean, he did have a better start coming off his last game, and obviously he would be a GPP play as well. And I think this game entirely is just GPPs. you can take a look at Jason Worth or Wilson Ramos, and even an Anthony Rendon. I mean, Rendon's 2,200. I think that price is a little too low. Same thing with the Trey Turner if he's in the lineup. So, you know, you look at Mats. I mean, coming off a better start of last, but you look at the previous three, really struggled. Uh, you know, giving up the long ball, was hit hard a little bit, and you got to wonder, what the injury situation is there. So definitely something to kind of keep in mind. But obviously, a game you're not looking for an entire amount of offense in. Vegas isn't either. So I do think both are reliable GPP options. But also, I mean, if you're looking to willing to overlook, the injury situation, the low price tags, there's kind of stuff to find there. So. Cubs and Pirates, you got John Lackey and John Neese, and obviously the Cubs are going to be a big play today. And you look at Neese, I mean, against right-handed bats, he's been awful this season. I mean, 374 WOBA, 1.96 home runs per nine. Got to like Bryant here, and the thing with Bryant, I mean, he's cheaper. He's a whole thousand cheaper than Donaldson, so. Um, I mean, you got to definitely like, the price discount there for a guy who's hit lefties pretty well this season. And same thing goes with Rizzo. I mean, 4.2 isn't a bad price tag for him on this slate. And he's handled lefties as well. Zobrist at 3.3, sizable discount from Altuve, and Cano up top. And then you got to like Contreras. I mean, Contreras has been very reliable since entering the bigs here so far. 3.3 behind the dish, hitting fifth or hitting fourth or fifth, depending on where they put him. So you got to like that. Javier Baez is another one, 3.5. Price is starting to come up, but he's hit lefty as well too. So you got to like this Cubs offense, and I do think that projected run total is kind of going to keep sneaking up until closer to game time. As far as the Pirates side things go, they're definitely intriguing. I mean, McCutcheon at that price, I definitely don't mind against Lackey, who's starting to kind of come back down to earth a little bit. He's probably the only one I'll touch, him and Marte. 3.7 Marte, definitely much more of a GPP play. McCutcheon, I definitely don't mind in all formats just because that price tag's cheap. He's starting to really come around. We saw that last night. We've seen it over the last few games or so. So starting to put together some power, starting to put together some consistent games. And you got to like that. And you got to know what McCutcheon brings to the table. So, when he's priced down like this, it's still definitely got to kind of keep rolling out there. Rays and Red Sox, you got the Jake Odorizzi on the hill, David Price. And for me, obviously not looking to really pick on Price. I think Price is an interesting GPP option, but I do think the Rays bats are too, just because the Rays do have a high strikeout rate. They have 24% strikeout rate against lefties this year. David Price does have strikeout upside in this one. And you also look at the Rays; they are a top 5 team in WOBA against lefties. So, you're obviously looking at the lineup that just came out. Brad Miller's in there, Logan Morrison's in there, Corey Dickerson's in there, Arcia's in there. So the only right-handed bats that I'm worried about is Forsythe Longoria. So I actually do think Price could be an actual great GPP option to swerve off Carrasco. We couldn't end up outscoring Carrasco. 225 favorites. So, I mean, borderline cash playable at this point, seeing the lineup that they put out. So I definitely don't mind him. As far as Odorizzi goes, obviously looking through the 1 through 5 there as usual. Kind of always the case. They still have a big Vegas total, nearly 6 runs as they always do. So you can definitely look at the Sox again, but definitely kind of like the Cubs, the Blue Jays, a little bit more here. Also, this Baltimore team that we're going to talk about next, definitely intriguing. Facing Tim Lincecum, so a lot of great options you can go with tonight, and we're heading into another one here. Baltimore and Los Angeles, and definitely looking to pick on Tim Lincecum here. And Lincecum's been really hit hard by right-handers, and lefties have tagged him as well. So for me, I love all these bats here. I think some of these guys have great price tags, like Adam Jones at 3.4. Definitely like that price. And Manny Machado, I mean, it's really tough splits between him and Bryant today at the third base, and obviously Donaldson, who's in play as well. But Donaldson's more so a GPP play just because he's a grand higher in price. But you got to like Trumbo at 3.4, and I think him and Jones are definitely great outfield plays in all formats. And the same thing goes with Wieters and Davis. I mean, the Wieters price tag's really nice for cash game catcher, and even GPP upside too. So you look at Lincecum and his struggles heading into Baltimore, where there's just a ton of home run power from this team in Camden Yards, where it enhances it from both sides. You're definitely looking at Baltimore as being one of the top scoring offenses on the slate, and definitely a stackable team. Angels, not exactly thrilled with their prices. I think they're kind of far too inconsistent for me, kind of lackluster. I mean, even when they do put together runs, it's singles. I mean, they just kind of chip away at you. It's nothing crazy. No real upside from this team. So for me, against Tillman, on this slate where there's far better offenses to target, not exactly thrilled. So for me, I'm kind of staying from the Angels. Obviously, Mike Trout and Cole Calhoun are always in play, and same with Pujols. If you're looking to go that route in GPPs, you should catch them at relatively low ownership too. A's and Astros, Sean Manaea, Dallas Keuchel. Obviously, I think both sides are certainly intriguing in their own reasons, just because both lefties are on the hill. Jose Altuve, 4.8. You're definitely paying up for that price tag. George Springer at 3.7. Certainly, I like that. Under 4K. Carlos Correa, I know he hasn't really hit lefties well this season, but 3K against Manaea, who doesn't really miss many bats, has allowing a 377 WOBA to right-handers, 1.59 home runs per nine. That for me, kind of a tough price tag to pass up on. I like him in all formats. And you got to like the rest of these right-handers. Even guys like Evan Gattis, certainly playable. Carlos Gomez, value outfielder for me. Hitting in the middle of that lineup, I still think he's definitely playable, even though he hasn't really been the guy of old. I do think in this matchup, it's kind of hard to pass up. So on the A side, I'm really only looking at two guys, and that's Danny Valencia and Chris Davis. 3K for Valencia, Chris Davis 3.2. Both have hit lefties well. Both have solid ISOs against left-handers. And Keuchel, I do think he picks up a win. I do think he throws a quality start here. But I also do think he could get some damage done by Valencia and Davis. So for me, Keuchel's a guy who, if you're looking to maybe get one of these expensive stacks in, like a Baltimore, like a Red Sox, like a Cubs, Keuchel at 8.9 could allow you to do that, because there really isn't a lot of cheap pitching that you feel comfortable using on this slate. So not going heavy with the A's. Obviously, those two lefty masters are kind of the only guys that Keuchel needs to watch out for, and kind of the only guys that you need to know here. So overall, definitely kind of a fade for the A's for me today. Cardinals and Brewers, this one I'm not really intrigued with as far as the pricing goes. Junior Guerrero has been pretty solid this season, so not really looking to pick on him. And same thing kind of goes with Leak. I mean, at some of these prices, there's a lot of better intriguing options, like Ryan Braun at 3.8, Chris Carter 3.8. Luke Roy at 2.8. I prefer Gaddis and Wieters. Braun, I mean, I've named off numerous outfielders that I like far better as far as guys in that Orioles game and the Red Sox as well. So for me, just kind of staying away from this game in general. I don't think there's a ton of upside for hitters. I don't think either of these pitchers at their prices really give a lot for me. I mean, Leak 6.5, but what kind of upside do you really have for a guy who pitches the contact? I know Milwaukee does strike out quite a bit, but Leak doesn't really have that swing and miss stuff for me to kind of feel comfortable using him. So, and also, I mean, he's not a lock for a win, which you definitely need on this slate. A's and White Sox, and I do think the White Sox are quite the value here today. You're just looking at full Dinowitz and what he's allowed to lefties in his career. He's even been hit hard by righties. Tons of home runs allowed from both sides. So you got to like 1 through 5 here. Tim Anderson 3.4, decent shortstop option. Love Adam Eaton 2.8. I mean, that's a great price tag. So I do think if you're paying up for a price, I think the White Sox are a great team to kind of fill in. I think they're a great team to mix into those high price stacks, because you do have Melky Cabrera at 3.3. Everyone's under 3.5. Todd Frazier is the only kind of real GPP option I see, just because he's been quite boom or bust, but thinks he's really figured things out kind of here of late, starting to hit for a higher average, a little bit more consistency, but still, given that you have Bryant, given that you have Machado just 600 more, you definitely kind of like those two have been much more consistent all year. So Frazier, obviously a GPP spin down. But I think the front four is definitely, guys you can rely on in cash games and GPPs. So definitely a stacking option. Could be a ton of offense there yet again. Last game in this main slate, and that's the Mariners and Royals. Dylan G versus Mike Montgomery. I'm not really looking at a lot of these Royals bats. I mean, both teams do have a 4.5 projected runs, but I don't mind Whit Merrifield as a value second baseman. I don't mind Salvador Perez. And maybe kind of seeing what they do at the top of the lineup. Maybe you see a Gordon slip down. Maybe you see a Morales, in the middle of that lineup. He'll hit from the right side. I don't mind those guys. Obviously, Kauffman Stadium, I mean, not the greatest for offense, not the greatest for home run potential. So, they're in play, but definitely kind of a lackluster situation for some of these guys. And even Dylan G. I mean, G's been a guy who's been torched by lefties. So obviously, I mean, these Mariners guys like Cano, Seager, Seth Smith, Leonis Martin are in play. I like Leonis Martin leading off. I think he's an intriguing value option in the outfield. Um, but as far as that, I mean, Cruz 3.9. Definitely could see him doing some damage today, but I do like kind of a lot of outfielders around him. So that's how I feel with this game in general. I just feel like for me, those offenses I named earlier, the Red Sox, the Orioles, the Cubs, the White Sox, that's kind of who I'm targeting, and these kind of fall a little bit lower than those teams. So that's going to wrap things up here for the FanDuel Punch Out. Be sure to check out DaveFantasyCafe.com for all the great tools and content.